Right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the VO Dojo's 21 Questions. I'm Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California, and I am super excited to welcome Jack Daniel as our guest and assistant and friend and puppy friend, as our guest for 21 Questions and later as the Sensei. So, Jack, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, Tish.
Hey,
Good to see you.
so good to see you too. So, what's your one word check-in for today?
I got to say, I never heard that before.
Mhm.
And I looked it up, and it's like apparently this is a thing. The one word check-in thing. Glad to learn something already. But I think mine today would be overwhelmed, and it's in a good way because it's my actual birthday today. So I'm
Oh,
getting
goodness.
all the things from people I know and
Oh,
people I don't
happy
know.
birthday.
You know
Oh,
how
I
that
thought I
is.
thought it was like, oh, we don't want to do it on Sunday if it's
Uh,
your birthday, but
Sunday was the day we went out with a
awesome.
bunch of friends because it was the weekend. I can't go out during the week, so it was a celebrated birthday. But
Excellent.
today's just a regular work day for me. But all the nice things people say, so overwhelmed was in a good way.
Awesome. 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 Well, happy birthday to you. And let's see. Where are you from?
From Philly,
Mhm.
originally Philadelphia. My parents still live in South Jersey, right near there. So most
Mhm.
of the people I grew up with are all there.
Awesome. Awesome. Kind of like Fresh Prince, right?
Fresh Prince, yes. But then
And
I wasn't taken to Beverly Hills, though, unfortunately.
well, where do you live now?
I'm in
Beverly
West
Hills
Village,
adjacent.
very close to LA. It's a little bit north of Malibu. It's a town called Westlake Village.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Excellent. And what will we know your voice from?
Let's see. Most currently, I'm on Nickelodeon with the Kids' Choice Awards. In terms of trailers, Guillermo Toro's, God, how many times I have to say that? Pinocchio, Puss in Boots, the latest one,
Oh,
which is
cool.
a terrific movie.
Ah,
Um, uh, let's see, other stuff you might remember me from are like Ford versus Ferrari, Suicide Squad, The Witches, Birds of Prey, Jackass Forever, a bunch of different movies. Yeah.
yeah.
I have been on CBS Paramount's Harper House was the voice for that. Did not get renewed, unfortunately.
Hmm.
What's funny about that? A real quick story is that Ray, who is the one of the main voices on that show, Ray Seahorn. She's also Kim in the show with Bob Odenkirk. Come on, Better Call Saul.
Hmm.
She and I were in a movie together back in the 90s in Washington, D.C., where we were both living. So we actually acted together way back when. And then, of course, she became a big on screen star. I became whatever I am. So but I've done stuff with TBS, Investigation Discovery, ABC, and I voiced in movies like Ad Astra, Elvis, Being the Ricardos, and some others.
Hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like you have found a powerful niche in being trailer voice, which is like, we talk about that's like the little pinnacle of the most elite place. And then you also have a lot of other things a lot of other ways that you bring your voice. So
I try to be like a David Kay is he's a good friend, but he's also somebody I admire a lot because he does everything. He does
hmm.
trailers, he does promo, but that's he does a lot more than I do. He does games, animation, he does all kinds of stuff, and I think that's the most exciting kind of career you can have. So why
Yeah,
not do everything you can? Corporate, do everything you can. It's all
absolutely. How long have you been doing everything you can?
everything you can. Well, I became a voiceover talent as such in 2017. So before that, I've been like I mentioned before, I was an actor for a long time. I was on stage actor, doing a lot of Shakespeare, all kinds of different things for years and years and years. Then was doing sketch comedy, traveling the country doing that, and then decided that getting paid $0.2 a week was not cut it. So I went into corporate America, became executive vice president somehow without any
Oh, wow.
qualifications for a startup. Did pretty well at that, but that hankering you have when you're a performer. So
Mhm.
uh, this is actually my origin story as well. Do you mind if I jump?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The fact is that I saw that movie in a world, at Lake Bell.
Uh-huh.
It starred a lot of people, including future friends who I didn't know at the time, like Joe Cipriano and Townsend
Mhm.
Coleman. And but it's just a fun movie, maybe not so realistic in terms of how the trailer world works, but just a
Mhm.
funny, great movie. And it really awakened to me. I'm like, I was in radio before. I've done all this stuff. Maybe that's a thing I can try. So I started dabbling, and I didn't make the jump, quit my job, and do everything else until 2017.
Wow, excellent. Yeah. It's always interesting to hear what that journey and inspiration is. So
Yeah.
you transferred all your skills and mastery from everything that you had learned as an actor and performer, all the skills and mastery that you developed from jumping in and becoming part of the corporate world and the business world, and then applied them all to this medium,
Are you
which
available as a PR person? I really like.
Sure, 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 sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what would you say are the three top ingredients to your success? I mean, that what we just articulated
Mhm.
could be distilled into that could be ingredients of success.
Like,
But what would you say the three top ingredients to your success has been?
I think for me, and this is something I actually picked up when I was in the business world,
Mm-hmm.
is that when you don't know how to do something, you find out who are the best at it, and you go ask them. And that's something I
Mm-hmm.
would regularly do in that world, and overcome your fears of doing it. So I applied that immediately to the voiceover world and found, some great minds, some great people, and asked them, how does this work? Can you help me, coach me, and pay them to do it, and all that. So expertise would be one word I think I'd
Mm-hmm.
apply.
Love that.
Along with the other side of expertise is discernment, because there's a lot of people who make themselves out as experts who may not necessarily have the expertise,
Mhm.
and their expertise may lie more in making you think that they're experts. So something I've done in the business world was also learning to quickly analyze and determine whether someone really knows what they're talking about or not.
Mhm.
And so I was able to take some of those skills and apply it to the wait. What's the word? I'm not willowing. What's the word when you cut wheat from the chaff? Whatever
Oh,
that.
winnowing,
Thank
winnowing.
you, winnowing. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a movie starring a little person. Okay, good. So that I was able to do that. So those are those two words, and then what was the other one? Oh, persistence. I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but in any endeavor, it's the person who sticks with it and keeps trying that
Mhm.
can't do it if you're not there, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there's so many layers of, one more stroke is the one that hits the gold, the
Right,
vein of
right,
gold, or
right,
the like,
right.
yeah,
So true.
exactly, exactly. Um, I think also just coming back to the thing that you said, you can't put down your creative soul. Like your creative soul is sort of your first child, so you can
Hmm.
try to leave it at the firehouse, but you're going to be thinking about it or something. So you kind of got to like, how do you keep persistent with persistent taking care of your creative soul,
Yeah.
making sure that that's a priority. Yeah.
It forced itself as a priority on me. It's like that part of me just said, "You're not going to ignore me." So,
Exactly. Yeah, and then it keeps on knocking you upside the head, like, okay, all right, geez, oh Pete. Yeah.
ow, and thank you.
Yeah. Would you say, like, this isn't always an interesting and loaded question, but what would you say your big break was, or did it happen that way for you? What would you say?
I think so. Well, there were really two, and there's one that answers the question, but I think I have to acknowledge the other one. And the first one was I was at a workshop. I mean, workshops have been so instrumental for me, but I was at a workshop, met an agent with my former agency, Vinny Labica, just a terrific guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I read for him. I was pretty darn new. I didn't know a whole lot, but I read for him. He heard something, and he said, "Listen, I think I'm going to bring you in." to the agency and have you read. He did. I met the other agents, and they give you a chance, and that was huge because without that that representation and that step forward,
Hmm.
it could have taken a lot longer. Um,
Right.
Everything that happened after that, but the big break that I think opened up the world of trailers and promo for me was I had been scratching for a wonderful production house that I still love working
Hmm.
with, called The Refinery, run by a great guy named Brett Wynn, who's also a buddy now. But he had was allowed me to be scratching for him for a while. And a
Hmm.
few months into that scratching, I'm like, well, this is going to be great. Maybe in a few years, I'll get a shot at a trailer. All of a sudden, I get notification from Zach, his VO guy. He said, "Oh, by the way, you're finishing on this campaign." And I was like, "Wow, what does that mean?" And that means you're going to be the voice. I'm like, "You're kidding? You mean they're actually going to use my voice on the actual spots?" And he's like, "Yeah, that was a big day for me."
Yeah.
And then maybe about a month later or so, watching Good Morning America and seeing my first movie trailers with my voice on it, and just I had a smile on my face all day. I mean, that was a big deal.
That's awesome. And for those of us, I know what you're talking about, but for someone who may not know the like you didn't know what the terminology was when you were
Oh,
doing it, but
yeah.
can you explain just a tiny bit about what scratching is and how it fits? Because it's a major part of the trailer of the flow of trailer business, right?
Right.
It's not just
Right.
when you're starting out, you're always doing scratching for
Yeah.
trailers, right?
And I'll
Can you explain that a
start
little
off
bit?
by, yeah, absolutely, Tish. So always, if you get a chance to scratch, I would generally say take it.
Mhm.
Not because it's going to be greatly remunerative, because it won't be. In fact, it used to be that it paid per SAG, but now they don't usually pay you anything.
Mm.
Basically, it gives you an opportunity to be the voice of, say, a trailer or a promo or whatever, or a commercial, as a temporary track. That would be the other word you might use.
Mhm, mhm,
But sometimes they're playing it as the production house is working with the studio to try to get the studio to buy their spot. They keep playing it. They keep refining it. The studio gives them notes saying, "Yeah, we got to change this, change that." And sometimes they'll keep you on. Your voice stays on. Their voice stays on, and they get used to it. And they might say, "You know what? That guy's doing okay," or "She sounds great. Let's just keep her in the spot. We don't need to find whoever else we would normally use for this." And so that could be your opportunity to actually get a job. Uh,
mhm,
so if you get an opportunity from a production house or someone say, "Hey, would you mind helping us by scratching on these?" Generally, your answer should be yes.
mhm. Well, I think that's a good approach to everything.
Right.
Generally, my husband always says, always say yes until it's time to say no. And then that's where that discernment comes too. I don't just say yes to everything because yeah, there's a whole nother philosophical. We'll
Right.
go to the 21 philosophical questions, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting, interesting, interesting. You mentioned um that Vinny was your previous agent. What's your current team like? Who's on your team now?
So now I'm with Atlas Talent,
Hmm. Hmm.
with the wonderful Lisa Barber Rich and John Wasser and Heather Dame and
Hmm.
Ariel and all the other folks who make up that incredible agency. So that gives me representation both in LA and New York.
Hmm.
So they're my national agency. But I also am with Jason Helsner Management. That's,
Hmm.
that's exclusively for trailer, because
Right.
some of our watchers may know, trailer is basically run by managers as opposed to agents.
Hmm.
It's just a little
Yeah.
bit different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when you're in that realm, when you have made it or are planning on making it, that is an essential part of your promo trailer career,
It is.
particularly in
It
trailers,
is.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, that happened because, and people always ask, well, how do you get the manager? And I say, well, I can only say that for me, the way it was is because I started taking work away from their clients. By scratching, I got a couple of these trailer campaigns, and all of a sudden,
Indeed.
managers started calling me and saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about getting a manager?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And so it was pretty
Hmm.
cool. And Bubba Bear here is saying hello,
Hey.
buddy. I'm sorry, I'm alone in the house right now, so
No worries. No
if you don't
worries.
mind, he's my good friend. Come on up, buddy. Let's say hello.
Hey, friend.
Come on, buddy. Hey,
Oh,
isn't he a cutie?
you're so cute.
So cute.
Hey. Booth Pop. Yay. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think it is also hmm, yeah, I mean there's so much discussion about that. Work begets work. People want to work with people who are working. And does that mean, oh no, I haven't worked? Like, get to know people, get some
Yeah.
work, right? Just that's how it works. You work and then you get work.
Yeah.
Um,
And rarely does it come to you by, being really talented and then waiting for the jobs to roll in. I mean, you have to go out there, you have to meet the work where it is. And that
mhm.
means showing up, not just at workshops, but also, if you have events around, maybe it means going to um, the bigger conventions and stuff that we have. You've got to meet others and work with others and have others hold you accountable, start your own groups. I mean, all this stuff is like any other endeavor. You got to get out there and get it.
Yeah, yeah. We do the VO Dojo Pro Fight Club 3 times a month and bring people together with like, here's the top talent, here's the high caliber decision makers who hire us, and our tagline for that is like, yeah, it's who you know,
It
but in
is.
the most positive way, right? Like, yeah, it's who you know and who knows you, and now you just said, oh, now I'm friends with Brett because I know him, he knows me, we work together. So in the most positive way, if it's who you know, then just get to know people, right?
Yeah,
It's that easy, but it is that easy. I think sometimes in the beginning, I'm like, oh, I don't know anybody. Like, well,
right. But it's like that for everything, right? You don't know
exactly.
anybody, so you slowly build your friendships and relationships, and
Hmm.
it's just like anything else, and it can be tough because so many of us, not just VO actors, but a lot of performers in general, can be very introverted.
That's one of our questions. Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
Many ways I am. I'm definitely I like to be. I have no problems being on my own. I spend a lot of time, on my own. I just, I can be out camping on my own. I'm happy with that. But I also love it, especially when I usually tend to be nudged or forced into situations where there are other people, and then people think, "Oh my God, he's such an extrovert," because I
Mhm.
kind of change a little bit. I kind of
Mhm.
hit a switch, and I become someone who's still me, but it's just another side of me. But most of the other time, I love to just read. I'm a
Yeah.
big reader. It's just there's a lot of things I'm very happy to do on my own. And
Yeah.
I go both ways, you might say.
And well, I think in terms of having a successful career, in terms of what are ingredients of successful careers, finding that balance. So if you are extroverted, there's a good time, a good portion of this where you're sitting alone in your booth or in your closet. And if you are introverted, there's a good portion that and how you build your business is going out and meeting people and doing the things, meeting the people who are doing the things and becoming one of the people who are doing the things. So it does require that combination, that blend. And if you go this way, then you have to develop this. And if you go this way, you have to develop that. So
Right. And
yeah.
even people think, oh, that's such a mercenary approach, but it's not. It's just the way the
Ooh,
world works, but it's also a way of sharing because so
yeah.
many of us have different approaches to the way we do things, or we can find commonalities and we can talk about things with other VOs that we learn from each other all the time, not just in formal settings, but just in conversations like we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Which goes back to you know, um uh, you came to this in the new mode. Back in the day when I started, we met at the agency every day.
Well, I
Like we
actually did that
go
too, though, because DPN
and,
was one of the few agencies that had everybody come in.
oh, right, right,
Like,
right.
I was
Okay.
lucky. I got the very tail end of that. So
The
for about a
very yeah,
year,
so you do have that experience, but that is where you like, oh, and then you meet like, oh, here's the person doing the thing, and we're just
I
sitting here
drove
doing it
all the way
together.
in every day almost, from
Yeah, so you
on and
did
up
have a part of that. Yeah.
down to where they were down in Beverly Hills. And,
Hmm.
that could be a challenging drive from time to time. But I was
Hmm.
happy to do it because it got me the opportunity to work with some huge talents.
Hmm.
It's just like, holy cow, as that person comes in too? Wow, I guess it's not so bad that I have to come in every day.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's different now because we're all just kind of alone. You don't realize when
Yeah.
you're sending in your auditions, you're in the mix. Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, well, what are you proudest of in your voiceover career?
I think the answer to that is really the friendships I've formed and the people I've met. I'm really proud of that because I'm not saying I'm not proud of the work I've done. I am. There's a lot of things I've done that's really cool, but those jobs come and go, and what was really exciting last year is done now, and it's
Hmm.
the actor's life. You're always everything's changing. It's always like what have you done for me lately? But the friendships endure,
Hmm.
hopefully, and I've really met some wonderful people
Hmm.
in this endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. What's your biggest fear or challenge in your voiceover career?
Probably dealing with the fact that you're only as good as yesterday's bread. It's just like
Hmm.
whatever excitement comes your way from landing a big campaign or something is
Hmm.
done pretty much a day or two after it's actually the work is completed, and then
Yeah.
okay, now what? Is it over? I know that some of the biggest names in what we do have had conversations with each other, and they've said I think it's over. And this is, of course, right before they land yet their latest thing. But it's just who we are. Like we don't have uh, somebody saying, "Okay, here's what you're going to work on next." Now that you're finished this, it's you're always having to recreate the wheel,
Right.
which
Right.
is part of something we signed up for, right?
Yeah, and I think particularly in the promo trailer that it can be that feast and famine. I remember um, just like Chopper Burnett was the voice of everything, and then some regime change happened or something happened at the network, and then it was not that. And
Yeah,
I remember him coming to fight clubs and being like, "Holy wow!"
yeah,
And then and that's also why we always emphasize that the internal training is the most important of this, because you need to just be centered in yourself of when it's here to be blessing, and when it's not, to trust that it's coming,
yeah.
and that you still have all the skills and the people, etc. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the most important part of that equation, I would say, is don't ever let anything go to your head because it will go away. Whatever is making you super excited right now, it's gone. It's already dead. Let's just put it.
It's already done. Face it. Face it. Yeah, finding that through line for sure, for sure. Um, well, it sounds like you're in a pretty awesome place, but if you could do voiceover from anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Um, I think I would love to be able to go off into like the wilderness and do it.
Hmm.
So I could take a week and just be off camping by myself or with a loved one, like
Hmm.
and just be chill, but also be able to record well and upload
Right, right, right.
or
So
outer
you're
space.
which would you either have the satellite that lets you have the internet connection? Yeah.
Get me into outer space. I'd like to do that before I die.
That's cool. Well, you'd know it'd be quiet.
It would be really nice.
The
No
ultimate
lawnmowers that I
booth.
know of.
The ultimate booth experience, 100% vacuum.
You figure those aliens have figured out this whole noise thing before. And if there are, you're going to be fine.
What would you say your VO motto is?
Avoid mottos. No, I mean, I,
Do
I,
not distill.
it sounds like a cute, glib answer, but I'm not really a motto guy. Uh,
Mhm.
I think it's not so important for me, and everybody has their
Mhm.
own ways in to frame your work experience than it is to just do the work. Um,
That
a
could
lot of
be a motto.
people, you know what? Actually, or maybe maybe some of these like supportive memes and all, and I think that's fine. That's well and good, but sometimes it makes me wonder if that doesn't also reflect somewhat of an unserious attitude because you're spending time trying to convince yourself that this is what you should be doing when maybe you should just do it or not do it. I guess for me, another possible motto for the person who hates mottos would be the VO is not a lifestyle. It's a job and it should not be your everything, but it should
Mhm.
be something you take very seriously and professionally. But to do it well, it can't be the only thing you hang your hat on.
Right. Right, right, right. I find that in my journey that um one thing that I do say is that it's a great way to make a living. And it does become a way of life because when you're doing the work requires that you show up in a certain way, that you be in relationship, that you be, that it does become, and each day you're bringing yourself to each piece of copy or each thing that requires you like, wait, who am I? What's my one word check-in? Where am I today? What am I doing? So it does become a process of that. Yeah. Do the work. That's great.
Do the work. Yeah.
It's work, do it. Yeah, it's work, do it. It's that's awesome. Yeah. And then along that lines, what does a day in the life of Jack Daniel look like? What is a typical VO day, or what is your practice, or how does it usually roll for you?
You mean after I make my coffee? Okay, good.
Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes yes, 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 yes.
Coffee fanatic. I love to. I like to spend a lot of time in a ritual on making my coffee. That's kind of how I start things off.
Mhm,
But I like to read the industry news,
mhm,
like things like synopsis, just to see who's coming and going because there are so many comings and goings.
mhm,
What shows are in development? Is there anything I can talk about with my representation that where I might be a good fit?
mhm,
It's always good to be aware of what's happening, who's moving.
mhm,
Then, of course, there is the correspondence that relates to the auditions and jobs that you're going to have for the day and setting up times, making sure everything's correctly scheduled, that there's no conflicts. And when I don't have something, if I have free time, I like to listen to jobs I didn't get
oh,
and
that's
try to figure
interesting.
out figure out why. Because a lot of times you'll hear it and go, "Yeah, that is better. I see that why they went with that." Of course,
Mhm.
there's always a few times where you're like, "Really?" But
Drunk
that's
again.
30%.
Who's making those decisions? Yeah.
um, but I have some friends that are in similar places in their careers, and we kind of have a chat group. And sometimes we get together on the phone or on Zoom, and we kind of check in with each other. And we talk about
Mhm,
not just business, but we talk about what we're trying and what we think is working. And
mhm,
it's fun. It's not like a super serious. We must hold each other accountable, but it does.
mhm.
So that's like a useful thing to do is just find a couple of people who are in somewhat similar places in their career and just chat with each other. See if you can't support each other and help each other figure things out.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Which again is it's always just you, but you never do it alone.
Yeah.
And you never do it alone, right? Not but,
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And one of the things is just along those lines, I know that other friends and colleagues who do trailer and promo, it's pretty demanding in terms of being available,
Mhm.
like being able, oh, we need a scratch, we need it now. Oh, this session's coming up. My friend Jonathan Cook moved to Hawaii, and then he always said like, and I would be, it was so much time difference, and then I'd be like, I'm going to the beach booth. I'm going to the booth. And then he was like, "What am I living in Hawaii for?" But what's your experience of that? Because I think you have found a place in this very very specific niche of work. Um, and so what are the demands of that? Some people call it golden handcuffs, right? What's your experience of that? Because I mean, they're gold, right? But how would you articulate what your experience with that is?
That's correct. I mean, it is. You pretty much you need to be near your recording space pretty much all the time. It could make going out to dinner challenging, even if
Mhm.
it's not that far. But if somebody says, "Hey, why don't you come out to? We're going to have dinner at Muso's or something downtown." It's like, okay, can I do that? Am I going to be on? Is it likely that I'm going to be called? Because if you are, you have to go immediately. And turnaround times in trailer and promo, especially with trailer, are usually like we need this within a half hour or less,
Mhm.
sometimes less. So that's not a lot of time to be able to
Mhm.
figure stuff out. But as my good friend Joe Cipriano says, always have a plan. Says, do what you want to do. Don't try to don't think that somehow you have to sit nervously in your, wait next to the
Mhm.
phone. But you just have to have a plan. And if that plan is you have a setup in your car, okay, that might work for certain things,
Mm-hmm.
not for other things. But or who do you know that has a studio nearby? You could call them ahead of time and say, "Hey, man, I'm going to dinner. Is it if I have to jump in your house real fast, would that
Mm-hmm.
work for you?" Or just know a studio you can hire who's going to be on, and just figure that stuff out and be professional. So if the call
Mm-hmm.
comes, you're ready. So
Awesome.
it takes some planning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then recommend the dinner place that's near the. Really, I was thinking this place. Yeah. That's great. And then just adapt,
Yeah,
adapt. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
but
great.
I know people who travel extensively, but they have either setups where they're going, or they travel with things like what's the thing that George and Rick Wasserman put together? George Whittam and Rick Wasserman, the
Oh,
tri
the new thing. Yeah.
booth. I've tried it; it's fantastic. I mean, so
Hmm.
that's the kind of thing you can bring with you, and basically, you know how it is when you travel and you're trying to set up at a hotel room. You're calling the concierge saying like, "Can I get 10 extra pillows and 3 extra
Right.
blankets?" That can be a real hassle, and they might come immediately, they might not. I have been that guy who's frantically trying to put something together because I have to get something in now.
Right, right, right.
It's just it
Yeah,
could be very you get very frazzled.
yeah.
But with setups like the Tri booth, and I'm not trying to push it or anything, I
Hmm.
just happen to know it works really well. But things like that, having a setup of some kind can
Hmm.
allay some of those
Yeah.
issues.
I get an image of like being Batman with a utility belt. Like, one moment. Got
Would it?
it. Right? Climb up the side of the building. Yeah. Well, last question. Knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself at the beginning of your career?
I would say, okay, don't believe everything you read online, because when you're starting out, you think, oh, that sounds good, but you don't know what you don't know. And so you have to learn to trust people who've actually done the work. So people figure out who actually has the experience of the thing that you're trying to do,
Hmm.
whether that's promo, commercial, trailer, whatever it is. Find people who actually understand the business before you start taking advice from them. I just see so many people with limited or almost no experience in certain endeavors setting up a shingle and saying, like, let me tell you how it's done.
Hmm.
And more importantly than that, is remember, it's not usually about you. So whether you you get the job, it's not because you're some fantastic person. It's because you fit the bill that day. If you don't get
Hmm.
the job, it's not because you're a terrible person. It's not even because you're not a good talent. It's because you didn't fit the bill that day for whatever reason.
Hmm.
So if you get a job or lose a job, don't make it about you. That's probably one of the biggest lessons we can take home.
Hmm. That is powerful. That is powerful. Well, Jug, it's been great to get to ask you a couple of questions in advance of Ask the Sensei. So
Yeah.
we'll have we'll be able to have you people take all this in, and then we can continue asking other questions. And since you are one of the people who do the things, it'll be great to have people who have an inkling or a desire. I think trailer is such a specific thing. I don't know, it's like some rare orchid thing, like, oh, grows under these circumstances and these are the conditions that so it's fantastic that we'll be able to have you share your insights about it.
It'll be
Um,
my privilege. So
as,
thank you
as
very
the
much.
sense.
I look forward to it.
Yay. Well, we will see you again soon, and thanks so much for taking the time. Really
Tish, it's a
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Yeah. Good to
Okay,
see you.
good.